The cobblestone streets of Prague glistened under the soft glow of streetlights, reflecting the gentle drizzle that had settled over the city. Morgan Freeman, wrapped in a dark overcoat and a flat cap pulled low, walked alone through the quiet alleys of the old town. At 78, he still carried himself with the quiet dignity that had made him an icon, his deep, resonant voice silent for now, replaced by the soft rhythm of his footsteps. He was in Europe for a brief respite, a rare moment of solitude after a whirlwind of film promotions. Prague, with its timeless charm and history etched into every building, felt like the perfect place to disappear for a while. He paused at a small bridge overlooking the Vltava River, the water shimmering like liquid obsidian under the moonlight. The city was alive yet serene, a paradox that soothed his soul. Morgan had always been a man of introspection, finding meaning in the quiet moments between life's grand spectacles. Tonight, he was simply a traveler, not a celebrity, savoring the anonymity that a rainy evening in a foreign city could offer. As he leaned against the stone railing, lost in thought, a soft voice broke the silence. "Excuse me, are you Morgan Freeman?" He turned slowly, his eyes meeting those of a young woman standing a few feet away. She was in her mid-20s, clutching a worn leather journal to her chest, her auburn hair damp from the rain. Her expression was a mix of awe and hesitation, as if she couldn't quite believe her own boldness in speaking to him. Morgan's lips curved into a gentle smile, the kind that had comforted millions through screens big and small. "I might be," he replied, his voice warm and teasing, like a favorite uncle indulging a curious child. "Depends on who's asking." The young woman's cheeks flushed, and she laughed nervously, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to bother you. My name's Clara. I'm a huge fan. Your movies, your voice, they've been with me through some really tough times." Morgan tilted his head, studying her. There was a sincerity in her eyes, a raw vulnerability that made him pause. He'd met countless fans over the decades, but something about Clara felt different. Perhaps it was the way she held that journal, as if it were a lifeline, or the quiet strength in her voice despite her nervousness. "No bother at all, Clara," he said kindly. "What brings you to Prague on a rainy night like this?" Clara hesitated, glancing at the journal in her hands. "I'm on a bit of a journey, I guess. I've been traveling across Europe for the past few months, trying to find myself, if that doesn't sound too cliché. I'm a writer, or at least I'm trying to be. This," she held up the journal, "is full of stories, poems, and thoughts I've been scribbling along the way." Morgan's eyes softened. "A writer, huh? That's a brave path. Takes a lot of heart to put your soul on paper like that." Clara smiled, but there was a flicker of sadness in her expression. "It hasn't been easy. I've been struggling to believe in myself. Sometimes I feel like giving up, like my words don't matter. But then I think about movies like The Shawshank Redemption or Invictus, and the way your voice carries those stories. It reminds me that stories can change people. They can give hope." Morgan nodded, understanding her more than she realized. He gestured to a nearby bench under the awning of a closed cafe. "Come on, let's get out of this rain for a bit. Tell me about your journey." Clara hesitated, then followed him to the bench, sitting a respectful distance away. She opened up slowly, her words tentative at first, but gaining strength as she spoke. She told him about growing up in a small town in Ireland, where dreams of being a writer felt like chasing stars in a sky too vast to reach. She spoke of her father's passing 2 years ago, a loss that had shattered her confidence and left her grappling with grief. The trip across Europe was her way of reclaiming her life, of finding the courage to write again. But doubt had been her constant companion, whispering that her stories weren't good enough, that she wasn't good enough. Morgan listened intently, his presence steady and grounding. When she finished, he leaned back, his gaze drifting to the river. For a moment he was quiet, and Clara wondered if she'd said too much. Then he spoke, his voice low and deliberate, carrying the weight of a man who had lived deeply and seen much. "Clara, let me tell you something," he began. "Life is a lot like a story. It's messy, full of twists you didn't see coming, and sometimes it feels like the ending's never gonna make sense. But the thing about stories, good ones, true one assists, They don't need to be perfect. They just need to be honest. They need to come from a place of truth inside you, and I can see that's where your stories come from. He turned to her, his eyes piercing yet kind. You're out here, traveling the world, carrying that journal like it's your heart. That's not the mark of someone who's giving up. That's the mark of someone who's fighting to keep going. And let me tell you, that fight, that's what makes a writer. Not the number of books you sell or the reviews you get. It's the courage to keep writing, even when the world tells you to stop. Clara's eyes shimmered with unshed tears, and she clutched the journal tighter. But what if I fail? What if no one ever reads my work? Morgan chuckled softly, the sound rich and comforting. Oh, Clara, failure's just a detour, not a dead end. I've failed plenty in my life roles I didn't get, projects that fell apart. But every one of those failures taught me something. They made me better, stronger. And as for no one reading your work, you're already wrong about that. Your stories are in that journal, and they're reaching you. They're helping you heal, helping you grow. That's the first and most important reader you'll ever have. He leaned forward, his voice dropping to that iconic timbre that could make the simplest words feel profound. You keep writing, Clara. Write for the girl who lost her father and found the strength to cross an ocean. Write for the woman who's sitting here in Prague, brave enough to talk to a stranger about her dreams. Write for every person out there who's ever felt lost and needs a story to remind them they're not alone. Your words matter. Don't you ever let doubt tell you otherwise. Clara swallowed hard, a tear slipping down her cheek. She wiped it away quickly, embarrassed, but Morgan just smiled, unfazed. Thank you, she whispered. I don't even know what to say. Meeting you, hearing this, it feels like a sign. Morgan stood, adjusting his cap. Maybe it is. The universe has a funny way of putting people in each other's paths when they need it most. Now, how about you do me a favor? Clara looked up, surprised. A favor? Keep writing, he said simply. And one day, when you publish that book of yours, send me a copy. I'd like to read it. Clara laughed, a mix of disbelief and joy. You're serious? As serious as a man can be on a rainy night in Prague, he replied with a wink. They parted ways soon after, Clara clutching her journal like a talisman as she disappeared into the night. Morgan watched her go, a quiet satisfaction settling over him. He didn't know if he'd ever see her again, but he had a feeling she'd be all right. She had the spark of a storyteller, and he'd seen enough of life to know that spark could light up the world. Years later, a package arrived at Morgan's home in Mississippi. Inside was a book, its cover adorned with a simple illustration of a bridge over a river. The title read The River's Song by Clara O'Connor. Tucked inside was a note, written in neat, flowing script. Dear Mr. Freeman, you probably don't remember me, but I'll never forget the night we met in Prague. Your words gave me the courage to keep going, to believe in my stories. This book is my heart, and it's dedicated to you. Thank you for being my sign. With gratitude, Clara. Morgan smiled, tracing the words with his finger. He opened the book and began to read, his deep voice echoing softly in the quiet of his study, bringing Clara's story to life.